Now
go. Let's go.
You're listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
Hey, baby. I like this song. Sorry.
the truth in my pack. Leftist lies and globalists, I'm pushing them back. From the saloon to the airwaves, I'm spitting it raw. Constitution's my compass, liberty's law. Big guns creeping, shadows on the land. Feds with the schemes trying to bind up my hands. But I'm the Sherpa, guiding through the storm. Red, white, and blue, yeah, freedom's reborn. They spin their tails, but I see through the haze. Media maggots, lost in the maze. I'm calling it out, no fear in my soul. This patriot's fire ain't losing control. Conservative Sherpa leading the fight. Torch in the dark, burning bright in the night. Stand for the truth, won't bow to the game. Sherpas, come and remember my name. Sherpas rising. This judge is twisted, trying to steal our rights, but I'm locked and loaded, got them in my sights. From J6 to the border, they're selling us out. I'm screaming from the mountain, hear my rainbow shout. They mock the flag, but I'm holding it high. Stars and stripes forever under God's open sky. No globalist chains gonna cage this land. I'm the Sherpa with the truth in my hand. They push their agenda, but I'm breaking the mold. Their promises empty, their hearts ice cold. Chicago's bleeding, borders torn apart. I'm fighting for the people with the warrior's heart. Conservative Sherpa leading the fight. Torch in the dark, burning bright in the night. Stand for the truth, won't bow to the game. Sherpas, come and remember my name. Sherpas rising. I've seen the storms, I've walked the line. 41 years, badge on the grind. Now I'm on the air, my voice like a blade, cutting through the lies that the traitors made. Hurricanes rage, but we're standing tall. Sheriffs of the Constitution answering the call. From the saloon to the heart of the fray, we're taking back America, no more delay. Conservative Sherpa leading the fight. Torch in the dark, burning bright in the night. Stand for the truth, won't bow to the game. Sherpas, come and remember my name. Sherpas rising. The static, hear my voice resound. Conservative Sherpa, freedom's battleground. Berserk, Bobcat, rules will never kneel. For God and country, this fight is real.
Whoa, Sherpa's rising. Whoa. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network. And I thank you for being here. I thank you and you and you and you and you and you and even the one back there nuking the lasagna right now in your microwave. I see you. I am, as you heard, I am your conservative Sherpa. I even have a banner for that. And what that means is I am guiding you relentlessly through the insidious maelstrom of Demorat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, tyranny, and betrayal, and all those things that occur in between all of that. What you're about to hear for the next hour and a half, 2 hours, until I run out of stuff. And you know how long that takes. What you're going to hear for the next 2 hours or so consists of my opinion and my opinion only. I am doing the job that the American media maggots won't. I am fundamentally changing America one leftist diaper at a time. And we don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversations. We are still serving stiff drinks right here in the saloon, along with facts, history, rationality, proportion, context, clarity, tradition, and common sense for normal people. Let's see. What did we talk about? We talk about politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all right here in the saloon, where the speech is free, but the booze is not. I have my own white potato water. You can have your own. So welcome to O2AMT, Lick Robinson. And I think I saw a mission ready man, and I can't go back. I can't go backwards. I can't scroll this stuff up. So I'm going to have to remember who was here That's about all I can remember. I'm being honest. Okay. I'm being honest. I've got some very intriguing stuff for tonight, some very interesting stuff for tonight. I'm going to start with some things that I don't think you expected that I was going to do. Before we do that, because everybody knows that oh, yeah, by the way, this place right here. Now, we want you at SHR to jump into my plush, resplendent, sumptuous, and palatial chat room, only on the SHR Media YouTube channel. It looks pretty nice out there. We have lots of warm blankets for everyone. So if you get chilly, a little cold, I got the fire stoked right there. You can pull up a banky. Wait a minute. That didn't fit. I just noticed that didn't fit. So let's pull out this and let's continue. Tonight, I'm also going to have some things perhaps you didn't anticipate. Yes, there will be this. There will be some carousel of amusing GURP. I've got a lot of things uploaded. A very brief interjection. This is Jake. About a half hour before the show. Jake is doing okay. Now, it's very important. Oh, Jack is in the chat. I see somebody acknowledging Jack. Jack, I can't see Jack, but I see Mission Ready Men saying hi to Jack. So, hi to Jack. Anyway, this guy is trying to trudge through 2 feet of snow. We got about 1.5 feet yesterday and about, it's almost 3 feet, and about another 1.5 feet today. And just before it snowed, I drove by. Now, I'm not doing this because I'm going, ha, ha. Gas went down to $2.19. Okay. For those of you in California, maybe I am going, ha, ha. Okay. But let's go back up here. I'm going to do some things that perhaps you hadn't been expecting tonight. Oh, wait, before I start, I said I was going to do this, right? So you should expect something similar to this. Grok has been having people placed into bikinis. So here's somebody who said, hey, Grok, put the homosexual president in a bikini. And that was Grok's choice. That's what Grok decided to do. BZ can't see Jack. I know. That's true. I can't see Jack. And sometimes I can't say Jack. Say Jack? Pat, say Jack? Is he back? Is he here? Is he in chat? So I have to tell you this. I didn't have a show on Tuesday night. And the reason I didn't have a show on Tuesday night is because my internet went out. Well, that was when I got my first batch of snow. And the internet disappeared for about a day and a half, almost 2 days. And so this is weird because I wrote about this in chat in Earl Biggie Jackson's show this morning, Mission Ready Men, the Mission Ready Men briefing. So there I was. Because I don't know about you guys, but I hate to look at shows and I hate to do, like chats and watch stuff on little teeny screens like this. So I was in chat on that. And then about a minute or so before Earl came on, my internet came back. And I knew that because everything went bing, 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 bing. And I had to figure out how to get the internet back on. And then, of course, I had a power failure right around 1 to 2 p.m. And it killed my garage door opener. My Mrs. BZ was out and the garage door opener completely failed with the garage door in the, of course, up position. So I called the garage door guy. He came here, inserted tab A into slot B, got product C, and fixed it. So today was not a good tech day, so to speak. I was expecting that for whatever reason, this thing would take a dump. Luckily, it has not. Anyway, in terms of all of that stuff, I also like this. Rubio realizing that he's got to be the governor of Minnesota. Oh my God, excuse me. Because somebody has to, and it may as well be him. Oh, I don't have it up. But anyway, last Thursday night and over the weekend, if you haven't gone on X to Marco's Rubio Jobs, you need to go to Marco's Rubio Jobs. It's a great place to be to see exactly what is happening on any given day with Marco Rubio and what jobs he's taking over. That's a wonderful thing. So in terms of, let's see, this, I also have this. Now, I don't have that many things that fall under this. Tonight is a kind of sort of fairly serious. Seems like all the shows recently have been really serious. But I am going to do this, and then I will get serious. And when I get serious, you will see this, BZ's BBS, because I'm going to elucidate upon certain things that I think people would expect me to weigh in on. And let me see if, yes, I do have a, look at that. I actually have the sound turned up on this. Go. I'm sorry. Quiet, stop. Don Man. Like the Don Rowe doctrine, I suppose. That's probably about as funny as I think I'm going to get tonight. So let's begin. Already hit that, already hit that, already hit that. Let's begin with this is just, this definitely falls under this. If I can find it. Now, oh, here it is. God, BZ, what's wrong with you?
Weapons Grade Stupid, the segment where anyone can play, but leftists are overqualified.
Here's a story that most definitely falls under weapons grade stupid. And then that's about the end of the segments that I'm going to have for tonight, except for some news. And then I'm going to go into what everybody would expect of me for somebody that spent 42 years in law enforcement. This is wonderful. This is great. I guess you could say, depending upon your perspective, this does fall under happy stories. Not exactly sure. So this is wonderful. Oregon tried this before already, and it was an abject failure. And Oregon for a time said, you know what? No drug arrests. You can do any damn thing you want in Oregon, until Oregon essentially fell completely apart. Hey, Zahara from New Zealand, welcome. Great to see you here. Thanks for being here. Oregon fell apart, and then the people said, maybe that was a mistake. We're going to stop that and have, we're going to resume. Yeah, there will be arrests for drugs. Well, Katie Wilson is the new mayor who hasn't accomplished a thing, but Seattle can't help but shoot itself between its eyes. And so here we go. Seattle is ending arrests for public drug use as the new mayor. I don't even know what to call her. She's a moron. I guess maybe you could call her a communist. I don't know. Hey, Reaver of Common Sense, good to see you here. Why didn't I acknowledge you earlier? I don't know. Phantom, good to see you here as well. Stuff like this just makes people crazy, except for leftists. So all I have to say is, as far as I'm concerned, this most definitely is weapons grade stupid. As I remove this and trot on, we have to go here. There was another shooting again. Wait a minute. Aren't I going to have this? BZ, Where is your producer, and why aren't you on top of this stuff?
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before
Okay,
this decade is out of landing a man on the moon.
I'm kind of on top of this stuff. So we're going to be talking after probably the first 50 minutes or so about Minneapolis and the shooting that occurred, because I have a unique sort of a law enforcement perspective that I've gone backwards in research because I already knew most of this stuff. That's going to be mostly in the second hour, but on the heels of that, this happens.
I will build a great wall.
Paul.
Stand by for news.
And here's the news. Again, another shooting in a leftist urban rat cage. 2 people, illegal invaders, were wounded in Portland, and they were gangbangers. There was a shooting, and I think this time it was Border Patrol, federal agents, not ICE. They were attempting to make an arrest. And these 2 people, a man and a woman, were a gangbanger. And for whatever reason, apparently they were inspired by yesterday. And they attempted to run the agents down, and they were shot. And a 911 went into Seattle PD. I've been shot. I'm a male, and I've been shot, and it hit my wife too. Well, apparently they're not dead. So how long? Just give me a thought in terms of, okay, how long will it be before the riots occur in Seattle? Give me a time. What do you think? A day? There are going to be more riots. The whiteys were marching. The walkathon started yesterday, which I found really interesting because as soon as the walkathon started for the whiteys in Minnesota, we saw this. Now, BZ, what is this? Hey, if you look about a third from the left, there's a flag, and it's red and white and green, and it's vertical stripes. That's the Mexican flag. Now, if you're protesting, why would you bring out the Mexican flag? Because the person that got shot wasn't Mexican. I mean, that's the craziest crap. Here's another story. This is your loving Republicans at work. So what happened is the U.S. House just passed a bill to give billions of dollars to big insurance companies through Obamacare. And they extended the subsidies for 3 years. Well, okay, you can see the Demorats doing that. But there were 17 Republicans who voted with the Demorats on that. Now, I have to say, and you can look and you see what the numbers are. 230 to 196 was the passing numbers. And as you might expect, thank God, primarily and predominantly that's dead in the house. Speaking of dead in the house, any radio, any car, the CPB, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, just voted itself out of existence. So what that means is that whites, Galps, guilty, overeducated white people won't be able to listen to their classical music anymore on many venues because the CPB is no longer around. That's the stuff I voted for. I don't know about you. Here's another thing. This was wonderful. Again, some of these are going to be under the aegis of happy stories, but they're just proffered as news right around now. So this chickadee, let me see if I can make this bigger. There we go. A leftist white female chickadee, an awful, decided that she was going to tell ICE agents when they walked into the Hampton Inn here by Hilton that, I'm sorry, we won't serve ICE agents at this Hilton. And Hilton heard about that because this wasn't a Hilton hotel by itself. It was a Hampton Inn, and a franchisee had this. It wasn't owned by Hilton ultimately, but the franchisee lost their franchise because of an awful. And I would assume that's Hilton, removing the Hilton sign from that property. And so some chick managed to kill a leftist a leftist insane white chick, managed to kill an entire Hampton Inn franchise. The proverbial home office, if you will, pulled the Hampton Inn sign. So what I say to that is, yeah, I guess this is a happy story. Job well done. Awful. You destroyed a franchise owner and made him ineligible to require his business. So nice. Job well done. And I think that was documented, if I'm not mistaken, by, what am I going to say? Nick Sorter? I think it was Nick Sorter. Anyway, hey, there's Jack. Now I actually see Jack in chat. I don't know Jack. Well, I do know Jack. Here's something that's very interesting. So a Nebraska state senator, Michaela Cavanaugh, was caught on video, hello, everywhere, vandalizing a Declaration of Independence exhibit at the Capitol. So calls, this is weird. How weird is this? Calls are coming in for her expulsion. So there she is. And deciding that she's going to damage and remove these things. She apparently doesn't realize that, hey, there are cameras all over the place. Now, I got to ask, honestly, why would you do this? You know, I understand that leftist white chicks are insane, but are they all? And this would tend to me to lend credence that, well, apparently most of them. By the way, did I say hello to Rick Robinson in chat? And did I thank Rick for, oh yes, I did right there. Thanks to Rick Robinson for simulcasting the show tonight. And by the way, it is January the 8th, the year of our Lord, 2026, as in where the hell did 2025 go? It like disappeared. This is a happy story. So again, it's happy stories mixed with regular stories. Trump moves to ban investors, big investors, from buying single-family homes. Now, not just in Idaho, not just in California, not just in blue states, but everywhere, mostly BlackRock and Vanguard, and I can't think of the other major third investment corporation, would go in and literally buy up plat after plat after plat of new homes so that they could reap the profits from this. And that kept by jacking up all the money, by jacking up all the rates, by jacking up the purchase price, because they got to make a profit too, you see. Finally, President Trump said he's going to ban big investors from buying single-family homes. That's a great first big step towards addressing the housing crisis. Why would a major investment corporation like BlackRock or Vanguard, homes were made to be purchased for families to live in. And if you have these major mega corporations purchasing them, it drives up the price, the materials, everything for people that just want, like normal, regular Americans, to sometime get a house. What do I got? About 2 minutes before the bottom of the hour break. This is worth it right here. Because if you don't know Brandon Gill, I can make it. This is about 2.5 minutes of juicy slamming Demorats. It's great.
I want to start with you, Mr. Valu. Again, thank you for being here. me ask you, does large-scale Somali immigration make Minnesota stronger or weaker?
Certainly stronger.
Yeah.
Certainly stronger. Do you know what percentage of Somali-headed households in Minnesota are on food stamps?
No.
54%. Do you know what that number is for native Minnesota-headed households?
Well, to be clear, a majority of the
It's 7%. There's a big difference between 54% and 7%, is there not?
Excuse me, sir. Could I answer the question?
Let me move on. We've got a lot of questions here. What percentage of Somali-headed households
Yes
in
or no?
Minnesota are on Medicaid?
I don't know.
It's 73%. Do you know what that number is for Minnesota native households?
Again, you're using the phrase Minnesota native households, but the majority.
The number is 18%. That's quite an astounding difference. I think we would agree.
Can I answer the question, please?
Let me ask you one more, and then we can go on to that. What percentage of Somali-headed households are on welfare in general?
I don't know.
It's 81%. What about, let me just ask you, after 10 years of being in the United States, what percentage of Somali immigrant households continue to be on welfare?
I don't know.
The number is 78%. So even after 10 years, 78%.
But wait, comes the standard Mark I Model 1 leftist rejoinder and retort, but they still enrich us just by being here and stealing all our property and our entitlements. It's like, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear those facts. I don't want to hear those figures. When I get later on today, or tonight rather, into this, and I also get into this, I'm going to soil you people with facts and figures. And leftists, I got to say up front, you ain't going to like it.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Mission log. Intrigue. I mean, let's face it, who's even counting anymore? The Lost Wanderer is officially off course, chasing rogue rocket launches, fringe science, and things that probably violate causality. If it burns fuel, bends time, or makes scientists very uncomfortable, yeah, I'm probably going to talk about it. Every other Sunday on KLRN Radio, The Lost Wanderer, because space doesn't come with a roadmap, and honestly, I wouldn't follow if it did.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here's Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Hey fellas, are you mission ready? You need to check out Mission Ready Men via Earl Big E Jackson on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, and noon Eastern. It's a show that equips you to navigate our society's challenges from a biblical perspective with courage and conviction. Tune into Mission Ready Men as we examine our culture through the prism of biblical truths, teachings, and how to apply them in our daily lives. Prepare to step up, stand out, and step into your role as a man as ordained by God. That's Mission Ready Men, hosted by Earl Jackson on the SHR Media Network. And get mission ready.
Want to make an immediate difference in the life of a critically ill child? You have the ability to do that right now. Make a donation to Dream Makers for Life, the organization that restores dreams to seriously ill children and their families. You can sponsor a dream pack for a child, which contains a clear PVC backpack, a dry erase board adventure coloring book, a journal, and dry erase markers to inspire a critically ill child to envision a future adventure and hope. Want to become a dream maker for life yourself? Go to dreamforlife.org. That's dreamforlife.org. Help a child. Help a family. There is always hope.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome back to BZ's Saloon, folks. Thank you so kindly for watching tonight live and direct on Rumble and X and shrmedia.com and KLRN and the SHR Media YouTube channel and the Stentorian and occasionally Euphonious KLRN. Our plush, sumptuous, and palatial chat room awaits. I'm going to have to crop it better because I left some crap at the top and the bottom, and what the hell is wrong with me? And of course, this is really great. This is grand. This changed just in one day. I think at the beginning of the day under Earl Jackson's show, we had 710, 712 subscribers to the SHR Media Network. And now we have, look at that down below. Look at that right over there. Jeez. Come on, point in the right direction, BZ. 719 subscribers to the SHR Media Network. And it's January the 8th. And we have 19 more subscribers than we had at the beginning of the year. As far as I'm concerned, that is damned glorious. This, however, is not glorious. This is from the state of Washington. This is what we're dealing with in terms of leftists. I'm going to be talking about law enforcement a little bit later at the beginning of the second hour when I do my big bulbous soliloquy, or my BBS, as they say. And yes, Zahara says, you went up 3 subbies today. Yes, we did. Oh, hey, by the way, this is for you. Thank you for mentioning that. Greatly appreciate it. So if you would subscribe, that would be glorious amento. All of that. So it's wonderful. Law enforcement. We're going to get into law enforcement and my analysis of what the hell happened. In the state of Washington right now, the Demorats have introduced a bill, SB 5974, which is going to strip local control of all Washington sheriffs. Now, this precedent was set in King County, which encompasses Seattle. The King County sheriff, once elected, is now appointed by the County Board of Supervisors. Sheriffs were created so that they were elected and answered only to the people and not to a city manager, a city council, or a mayor. But Washington is making sure that that gets blown up and destroyed. That's purposeful. That's intentional. The bill shifts the power of electing who you want to elect from you to a governor-appointed group of bureaucrats. So if it's a leftist piece of crap governor, they're going to elect leftist piece of crap bureaucrats. Under the bill, the state gains the power to decide the state will decide not only who can run for sheriff, and once elected, if they can stay in office or not. The sheriff is the only elected peace officer in the entire country, and the bill essentially removes the power of the people over the sheriff and places it in the hands of the government, which is exactly what they want. So in the state of Washington, sheriffs are going to mean nothing. Elections will essentially mean nothing. Law enforcement will mean nothing, and the will of the people will mean nothing. And when I tell you, as you already know, that's every bit as intentional as you could possibly make it. This is a happy story. And I was looking for a story which not only delineated how the Euro trash is being eliminated, we're taking out the Euro trash, but I wanted to find the list of, I think it's 39 organizations that were removed by Trump. Let's go here. So Trump has decided that we are withdrawing the U.S. from international organizations, conventions, and treaties that are contrary to, imagine this, the interests of the United States of America. Here is a president, and I don't always agree with him. Many times I do. let's go down and look at this. It goes into some of the organizations. 24/7 Carbon-Free Energy Compact, the Colombo Plan Council, Commission for Environmental Corporation, Education Cannot Wait, the European Center of Excellence for Countering. What? Anyway, look at him. Down and down. More leftist, globalist bullshit. A great deal of it predicated on separating you from your cash because, oh, climate change. Climate change is every damn day. You passel of morons. But it just keeps going. Peace Building Commission. What? This is great. UN Alliance of Civilizations, UN Conference on Trade and Development, UN Democracy Fund, UN Energy, UN Oceans, UN Population. It's like a Monty Python movie. It's like the People's Palestinian Republic Front for the Palestinians front thing. It's only a great thing. This is, and not many people are talking about this, tomorrow may be revelatory. SCOTUS may decide to issue its opinion on tariffs. And of course, CNBC went, hand me my fainting couch. I'm getting the fantods. I'm about to faint. You can read this too. But what they're on the cusp of doing is saying, yeah, I think a president can probably institute tariffs, and there won't be anything, presumably, that once we've ruled, you can essentially do about it, which I think is a good thing. Here's another good thing, because we're talking about a world stage. So I thought, let's go into some other world things that are occurring right now. So Jeanine Pirro, DC AG, I believe, moves to block George Soros from allegedly secretly bankrolling protests across America because who funds them via literally hundreds of interwoven, dovetailed, hidden groups. The money is buried, and that is intentionally so. She's introducing a new bill that could classify such funding as organized crime under RICO. That's the Racketeer Influenced Corrupt Organization. And if you instill or instigate a RICO case, what that means is that gives you carte blanche to go into what? The financials. Because how do RICOs occur? How do they move? How do they operate? How do they live? Money, honey. Here's something also that I bet a lot of people didn't notice. Not sure why. Not sure why I haven't heard this blasted everywhere. Russia apparently decided that it was going to evacuate diplomatic personnel and their families from Israel. They jetted out and skied out 3 flights in the past day or so. So to me, what this is saying, this is reported in Russia by the Daily Iran News and UNN and this site, EN News. So either it's unmitigated bullshit, not saying it isn't, but I'm bringing these things to you. So if you wish, you can go and begin investigating and then also ask the concomitant question that I pose, which is, okay, well, what does Europe know? What does Russia know that we don't? And is it something that we, the United States, know already ourselves? And for whatever reason, we're just not going to say anything about it. This is also one of those times where, as I sow, terribly and shamelessly stated in such vulgar terms, the internet is forever, biatch. So CEA, however the hell you pronounce that, and I don't give a shit, Weaver is Mamdani's new whatever the hell, director of something to protect tenants. So Basically, what their goal is to come upon a building, say that we believe that you are not maintaining this building to what we consider to be our standards. We are the city of New York. We have an interest in making sure that housing is well maintained, and we're going to take this building from you. We're just going to confiscate that. Now, she was doing her very level best to make sure that she buried this. But if it's on the internet, and the internet is kind of sort of forever, BZ also can probably find this as well, back from 2018 on Twitter. Impoverish the white middle class. Home ownership is racist. So I want to make sure that you guys understand that this is New York policy, and it will succeed or it will fail on its own 2 feet. Now, smart people think that, well, it'll fail simply because of its own weight. Probably. And then this is C or CEA Weaver or something like that. So she can't take being in, being looked at. So she came out and she broke into tears when she was asked as she exits her building, well, hey, what about all this gentrification stuff? And she's living in a rather Tony building herself. She's 37 years old. There she is, tears streaming down her face. That's sad. Can I have some sadness expressed for that young lady? And then there's also the wonderful, incompetent Michael Bird. Now, not only, I just want to make this clear so that I don't overstep and create any sort of a hyperbolic situation. I want to say, so, okay, USCP Capital Officer Michael Bird, he may be a lieutenant or captain or what the hell, I don't care, is not only incompetent because he left his firearm on the public side of a restroom in the Capitol and just left it there. Anybody could have walked away with it. And he's a murderer. And he's also, isn't this great? It turns out that he's also a welfare fraud. Social media erupts over a report that Capitol Police Officer Michael Bird and his wife ran an uncredited daycare. What do all the Somalis talk to themselves and then try to pull in as many people of a particular millennium count and say, hey, look, here's how you can profit too. What is the deal with daycare? What I believe the deal is that because it's so easy, no one looks, no one checks, it's everywhere. And this murdering fucknut is another example of same. Just bringing all the happy stuff to you. Here's a story that I believe eminently to be completely true because I am an equal opportunity offender. I hate leftist blacks. I hate racist blacks. I hate leftist whites. And I hate racist whites equally with equal passion. And I hate stupid leftists. Here's Fox News, David Marcus, and I completely believe in this in terms of GALPs, guilty, overeducated white people. White guilt and apathy fuel massive corruption in Minnesota because to even want to examine where did your money go? You racist. And whites cringe. Oh, no, I can't be called a racist. Like I care. But guaranteed. Guaranteed. I completely believe. And again, all this stuff will be available for your infinite perusal at great leisure, maybe with a cup of coffee or some nice vodka. Wait. Nothing tops off a day like some good Kettle One vodka. Just saying. Hashtag. But I believe that to be true. That's how this crap became so successful. Because GALPs said, we can't look into this stuff because, we would feel bad. We would absolutely feel bad. So, because the internet as I say, is forever. Here's Chucky Schumer weighing in on, I think it's Venezuela and the Maduro regime. And I got to tell you, folks, I put a lot of this crap up, not only so I can remember, but also so that I can find this stuff and reference it in the future if I want to, because there's another reason that I put show links in the Rumble side of the SHR Media Network, because I can't fit everything in YouTube. I tried it one time. Sorry. Anyway, Chucky.
He brags about all these things he wants to do or is doing, but his actions belie his words. Maybe the best metaphor was his claim to bring democracy to Venezuela. There was a big policy there. It flopped.
So the reason that this is wondrous and glorious and gorgeous is that the irony, the wonderful irony is just bubbling out of this. So in 2020, like it says, Chucky Schumer decided that he was going to criticize Trump for not ending Maduro's regime. And then, of course, Maduro's regime was ended in, gee, folks, what amount of time? That's right, 2 hours. And then now it's bad, it's horrible, it's mean, it's evil, it's bad, not the regular kind of bad. And leftists and Demorats, as I'm going to say a little bit later, they don't give a crap about people. Brandon Johnson, the racist king mayor in Chicago, doesn't give a crap about black people. He just cares about himself and power and illegal invaders so that he can get elected, if he could possibly, in perpetuity. But the interesting thing is now people in Chicago are saying, wait a minute, we're faith leaders. We gathered outside Trump Tower in Chicago to protest what? 100% property taxes hiked, voted in by Demorats. What?
Poor residents on the west side and south side have been targeted. Unfortunately, this is a blue state, and many of us have supported these elected officials.
The religious leaders point the finger at the Cook County Assessor's Office and the County Board of Review for giving places like Trump Tower a break. Now, the Cook County Assessor, Fritz Kagi, responded with a statement pointing the finger elsewhere, saying, quote, these property tax increases hitting South and West Side homeowners are flat out unfair, and they're the direct result of huge cuts that the Board of Review commissioners gave to large corporations.
But if they did that, that was their decision to make, right? And they're all Demorats. So the big question is, why did they decide to do that? And why weren't the people considered? I got about 10 more minutes. This is juicy. I don't find all that much stuff about Idaho, but when I do, and it's stupid, and it's really stupid, it's tranny stupid, I need to put it up on the stage, and here we go. Here's a tranny socialist running for governor of Idaho this year. And like it says up here, this dude belongs in, all trannies belong in mental institutions because they're not right. Absolutely. And I responded, yeah, they belong in mental institutions, I don't know, or maybe a dog park.
I'm Maxime Duran, and I'm running for governor of Idaho in 2026 as an independent socialist candidate. Everyone belongs in Idaho, and I belong in that building.
Trans socialists in Idaho? Sounds like a long shot, but communism's spreading faster than TDS.
Boy, is that the truth. You know, leftism, Demorats, leftists, Demorat socialists, all this crap, anarchists, they're a cancer. They're an infection, and they need to be excised. They need to be removed. They need to be, when you finally can, ignored. Well, there's no ignoring them, and they are everywhere. And that's why this fight, especially, guess what? Hey, the midterms are here, 2026. Last year, 2025, all of us were saying, well, in 2026 for the midterms, we're going to all get together and unify, and we're going to fight. Really? This stupid crap, tranny crap, is what you're fighting. men in girls' locker rooms. Now, this guy isn't going to get more than a handful of votes by people that are equally mentally defective. But the illustration is here just to indicate that it's everywhere. You can't get away from it. It's unless you're living on the top of some kind of a mountain and you're far away from civilization and you're disconnected from, I don't know, water, electricity, whatever, then you won't be affected. But otherwise, you'll find yourself likely affected. On a big stage, on the huge stage, let's add this. Persians are talking now. And the world media maggots are making sure that they're not listening, but big crap is occurring in Iran right now. This is essentially what I said is this is the reverse of 1978. When the Shah of Iran was deposed by muzzy fucknuts who went in and instituted Sharia law on a country that was historically Persian. And what that meant was they were a civilized people, unlike the barbaric fucks that took it over. And they're tired of it now. Now, this is interesting in terms of the next video. And what that indicates is, and some people would say, oh, warning, what you're about to see could be violent or something. I don't care. It's a late night show. Watch it or not. I'm not going to warn you about any of this kind of crap. But these are the Iranian people deciding that I think we're kind of done, mostly, with Iranian police. Go. I like it. I don't know, it looks pretty dead to me. I think that's a good thing. I think that's a happy thing. We're going to continue on. I got about 2 more stories before the top of the hour break. And I go to my big old hanging, big, beautiful soliloquy about what occurred yesterday. People would expect no less. People have been talking about Qatar. People have been talking about Tucker Carlson and Qatar. People have been talking about Tucker Carlson and Qatar and why he appears to be sucking up to muzzies and why he appears to be sucking up to Qatar. Why? Now, not that I particularly give a crap about Tucker Carlson. Look, he has his millions. He was excommunicado from Fox News, couldn't care less. He wasn't a nut job at that point, kind of a nut job. And he runs hot and cold for me. He's very topic dependent. But at this point, he really doesn't care. He's got all the millions he could possibly use. He's got his boat shoes with no socks. He's got the wonderful interior of a podcast that he hosts. I mean, things couldn't be better for Tucker Carlson. So he himself can take a big cup of shut the fuck up and I don't care about you. But this individual from Qatar says something very interesting. He's a former Qatari prime minister. His name is Hamad bin Jassim. And he says, we have bought off the Western media. I tried to do it. I couldn't do it. Every time I try to do some kind of a Middle Eastern accent, it comes out like a Pakistani, like Prakim and Prakash. So my, ability to do just play the damn video, BC. We had journalists on our payroll. Some of them are MPs now. Others have become. I know them. We would pay journalists in many countries. We would pay them every year. Some of them received salaries. All the Arab countries were doing this. If not all, then most of them. We had journalists on our payroll. Now, you got to ask yourself one question. Did I fire 6 shots or only 5? And being this is a 44 Magnum politician and podcaster, BZ, one of the most powerful podcasters in the world. Where's the laughing? That was a laughing. Come on. You guys you're lacking, you're slacking. You were supposed to be laughing. Because everybody knows that BZ makes so much money on this. Now, this last video I'm going to put in here, if for no other reason than I found it, I finally found it. I'm going to put the link up in the Rumble podcast area of BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon because this is so damn hard to find. So the link will be up there. I will show you the link, and it doesn't necessarily have much of anything to do with the show tonight, but I'm going to play it so you can again hear it. And then if you want to prove people wrong, like, oh, Trump never said that, well, guess what? Yes, he did. And here we go.
We have come to demand that Congress do the right thing and only count the electors who have been lawfully slated. Lawfully slated. I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Today we will see whether Republicans stand strong for integrity of our elections, but whether or not they stand strong for our country. Our country. Our country has been under siege.
So there's the video. The link I will put up in chat. And when anybody ever says to you something similar to, he never said that, and there's no documentation to indicate that he ever said that, you can tell them, peace off.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Listen in to the Reaver of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a show equipped for bombast. Tune in Mondays and Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, and 6 p.m. Pacific, featuring a refreshing dose of reality. Jersey Joe fearlessly tackles the tough topics with no nonsense. Just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com, where you can hear the Reaver of Common Sense in action. He may not always be polite. He may not always be refined. But one thing's for sure. He always tells it like it is.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? Then check out 7 Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with 7 Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com. 7armors.com. Faithful, vigilant, steadfast, passionate.
Are you looking for bold, honest conversation about the issues shaping America? Well, let me welcome you to Unleash 101 with Jeremy Hansen, where we take you beyond the headlines. We dive into politics and culture, struggles of everyday life. It's raw, real, and unfiltered. If you're ready for truth with a punch, pull up a chair and join us. That's right, Unleash 101, where real talk feels like home. Find us at unleash101.com, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and more. We look forward to seeing you. Unleash 101 with Jeremy Hansen.
Freedom. One nation in all of human history was built on that bedrock. Ours. A republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. Self-government requires freedom, just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern. Freedom has made America exceptional, but it can only last as long as you and I seek the good, as expressed by the laws of nature and nature's God. It can only last if you and I choose to act as people of character. Forging character has been the pursuit of Hillsdale College since 1844.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And it's the beginning of the second hour. Let's see, it's 9:03 p.m. Pacific on the far left coast. Because where I am in Idaho happens to be in Pacific, and that means it's midnight 03 Eastern. And thanks for being here tonight and listening. Please subscribe to the show. You can see down below. We got 719 subscribers now. And what I should continuously emphasize, but sadly I do not, is each subscription, by the way, gets me the opportunity to acquire an arboreal animal of my own choice, a porcelain Dalmatian, another can of cat food, and I have specific wants and desires. The timing chain from a 1983 Peterbilt 359, and some blinker fluid, and more importantly, more vodka. More vodka. Drink too much vodka. Drink vodka. Boris, Badenov, Moose, and Squirtle. Moose and Squirtle. And so it's time for my BBS, my big, beautiful soliloquy. And so I thought, okay, let's get into the issue. Let's get into the weeds. This is where we start to get serious. And we decide that we're going to point out a lot of things that demand to be pointed out. There are a number of things that are patently obvious that are going on right now. If you open your eyes, but you have to want to do that. And that's the rub. The Demorats, the socialists, the Demorats, socialists, leftists, globalist, anarchists, blah, 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 intentionally view life in a big, skewed kind of fashion and in alignment with their extremely destructive viewpoints and philosophies. And the theme of tonight's show is this. It is, in fact, intentional bedlam and chaos that's going on right now. And it's aided and abetted by all the people that I just mentioned. You know it, and I know it. And they will not give up. The bedlam and the chaos that we've seen splayed all over the U.S., and most particularly recently in Minneapolis yesterday, is 100%, absolutely 100% intentional and with purpose. While likewise, and this is the most important part, it is simultaneously 100% avoidable. It has been, is now, and will be avoidable. So the only people with blood sprayed all over their shoes and their clothes and their faces are the people I mentioned, Demorats, leftists, anarchists, and all the rest. It's too much to start simply by saying that, you know, if you don't like the laws, go ahead and change them. But the LDAM, the leftist Demorats, and the American media maggots have gotten away for so long, for so many decades, by flouting and embracing the eschewing of laws, Gesundheit, that they don't like, with essentially zero consequences because of this, or repercussions, that they have enabled and encouraged people all over the U.S., like the Minneapolis driver, to commit the act that she did. So sanctuary cities and counties and states, by ignoring federal law, intentionally and with purpose, created the situation that we're now seeing. Common sense people know that that is true. Had ICE been able to go into jails and correctional facilities, into secure facilities, as they were for multiple decades when they began as the U.S. Border Patrol and I was in the jail, they would come in and look for the illegal invaders there, and I would tell them, here's what we have. Now, they would go individually and interview all of them. If that had continued, none of this crap would have occurred, and multiple lives would have been saved. So one of the first questions that I think people have to ask, because lots of folks have asked this, and that's, can Minnesota, the state of Minnesota, prosecute the ICE agent involved? And the answer shouldn't be a surprise, although I heard Bill Barr say it a little bit earlier today. I was kind of shocked that he even went there because it's Bill Barr. And the answer is no, the state of Minnesota does not, and they cannot do that. So what's going to happen is this is going to be thoroughly investigated by the FBI. I can only hope, please, thoroughly investigated by the FBI. Because essentially the DOJ, the Department of Justice, reviews every incident where there's a federal law enforcement shooting. It's a matter of federal law because this was an agent operating within his employment and the scope of his duties as a federal officer. The law that applies to him is whether or not he's actually authorized under federal law and the federal rules, not state laws that are applicable to him. Let me make an example. Let's go back to, what the hell was it? 2015, 2014, something like that. Everybody remember Darren Wilson, the Ferguson PD officer? Darren Wilson was involved in a shooting with a guy whose name isn't even worth mentioning in August of 2014 in Missouri. And he was investigated by the FBI. If you remember, literally 100 FBI agents were sent to Ferguson, Missouri to do the investigation. And then his case was sent to a St. Louis County grand jury because he was a Missouri officer, not a federal agent. He was subject to that grand jury, which refused to indict Officer Darren Wilson. Simultaneously, what occurred, the DOJ conducted its own civil rights investigation under 18 U.S.C. 1983. That's called a 1983 action, which pays attorneys to sue civilly. In case you didn't know, I happen to know personally. Ask me. So under that, the DOJ investigated Officer Wilson under the DOJ auspices by way of the FBI during what? I hope you're sitting down. This was during Obama's term. And they cleared Officer Wilson of civil rights violations in March of the next year, 2015. Okay, so the dealio is that's a state venue because of the jurisdiction of the officer in Missouri. That's not a federal prosecution available for criminal charges. That's the big difference. State and federal. So, in my opinion, I am ho. I could be a ho. Maybe I was a ho. Maybe in my college days, in my salad years. The Civil Rights Division of the DOJ is likely going to consider, I believe, this to be an act of self-defense. As I've said before, and I'll say it again, because I've experienced both, the rules of evidence in federal venues and federal cases in federal courts, the laws of evidence are looser than those of, say, Califailure, where I operated as a cop for the last 35 years of my career. The standard, and this is grok this concept, Cleotis, the standard, I remind everybody, is not what people on the sidelines or the American media maggots or politicians or Monday morning quarterbacks think. The standard is what a reasonable law enforcement official or an officer with his requisite training, education, and experience, and in the surrounding environment thinks. And taken into account is going to be the story that same ICE agent, whose name I am not going to repeat here for obvious reasons. The same ICE agent on a prior occasion about 6 months ago was dragged about 300 feet and he was almost killed in the process of executing an arrest warrant on an illegal invader, and that resulted in 33 stitches. So would you suspect that perhaps that incident looms large in his visage, in his brain? And the answer is yes. And the standard is, of course, did the agent reasonably fear for his own life or the life of others? So the bottom line is this. The state of Minnesota, and this is absolute, the state of Minnesota lacks the authority to enforce federal law. That's a decision that can only be reached through the federal government. Under the Supremacy Clause, Minnesota cannot prosecute the ICE agent. Now, each case and every case, every incident, and the surrounding circumstances, they're all different, as they should be, and they should be taken that way. One size cannot and does not fit all in terms of prosecutions or investigations. So decisions by agents and officers, as a bunch of us here at SHR already realize and recognize, also Rick Robinson over at KLRN, you got to make decisions in seconds. And sets of people entirely uninvolved in the situation are going to judge that instance for quite possibly years. And I have another example to give you. Shock of shocks. One case where I was personally involved took 8 years to resolve. BZ, what the hell happened? It's this. That case was Lewis v. Sacramento, County of Sacramento, in which a Sacramento County deputy sheriff was first given summary judgment and then appeals sent him through various federal courts right up to SCOTUS. So SCOTUS then came down and returned a verdict indicating the deputy didn't suddenly wake up one morning, like they were alleging, with deliberate indifference that shocks the conscience. That's how the court wrote it. That he was going to, this is what happened, that he was going to strike an individual who fell off the back of a motorcycle while in pursuit, and that there was no Fourth Amendment violation attached to any of that. But wait, there's more. Now, how I was involved is I wrote that departmental order on pursuits a few years before that. My order was upheld all the way to the Supreme Court, but it took 8 years of legal rigmarole and crap in various courts for the deputy to be exonerated. His life thusly was on hold for 8 years. Trust me when I tell you, the department didn't want to touch him. He and his family were literally put in limbo for 8 years. There were no promotions, no plum assignments for Deputy Jimmy Smith. That was his name. He was in an 8-year, basically hell, a departmental hell. He wasn't going to go anywhere. And some people in management didn't want to speak to him and didn't. So what I thought we'd do tonight and what we'd examine are reaction times in a realistic kind of fashion and in a way with that cops are familiar. And the reason I bring this up is because I taught this stuff in 2 venues. First, as an EVOC instructor, that's the Emergency Vehicle Operations course for my department. And then as a supervisor for EVOC after I got promoted. And also when I was range master for my 3,000 plus deputy department. So I was considered in court an SME, a subject matter expert. And in courts, that's what's termed an expert witness. And so I testified on any number of occasions because of that. The first thing we have to consider is perception reaction times for an incident like this has to be looked at as an individual under stress. People not under stress have a more, I guess you could call it a more ideal reaction time. But officers like this agent already in a stressful situation, they have to process these things differently. We have to recognize that officers under stress, they might get really narrowly focused. That's called tunnel vision. It's also called inattentional blindness. It was upgraded. The phrase was upgraded a few years ago in terms of training. And they get that inattentional blindness from things that are around them. And their scope of vision goes from a wide range and down to a rather specific focus. And they lose sometimes the ability to coordinate. They lose the ability to make the best decisions and perceptions, and it's not just cops, it's everybody. So they have to process all this stuff differently. We have to recognize that officers under that stress are going to do these things. And that regards actions, people, surroundings, things all around them in the environment. Now, I subscribe to something called the Force Science Institute. I have referred to them many, many years. Because when I was in homicide, I had to do OIS cases, which are officer-involved shooting cases. So I had to go to classes to learn about that. So I was an EVOC instructor and a supervisor. I was range master for my department. And while I was in homicide, I was also considered an expert witness, which enfolded all of this GURP around it as well. One thing that the Force Sciences Institute recognizes is that officers are going to be judged and examined at great length. And this is a quote now from Force Science. Zooming in to extract details from a dynamic, rapidly unfolding event that an officer would not reasonably be expected to perceive in real time, and freezing a dynamic event to make it appear as though the suspect was not moving or resisting, creating the illusion that the officer had control over the suspect. That's what people are laying on officers. So what an officer has to do in this situation, all people, but officers, that agent in this particular situation, is that agent had to perceive a threat, see it visually, because that's the input that comes through first, had to perceive a threat, assess it, decide on a response, and then execute that response. So even when responding to a really clear stimulus, this process takes time. Video freeze frames, and this is what's going to be used against this agent, guaranteed in the future. Guaranteed. Video freeze frames, those captured within tenths of a second of the officer's decision to shoot, can portray circumstances that are significantly different than those perceived by the officer at the time. So you're going to see freeze frames here, freeze frame here. Look at the video here. Look at the video there. Also, you have to realize that if an officer suddenly sees that circumstances have changed, or that officer, this is important, and it was proven out yesterday. If an officer sees that circumstances have changed, where that officer or that agent has already started gunfire in response to a perceived threat, it also takes time to recognize that change, interpret it, and stop shooting. Because here's what a whole bunch of studies found. An average delay of about 0.36 seconds occurs between the stop signal and the final shot. A whole bunch of participants in a whole bunch of studies fired an average of 2 additional rounds after the stop signal in their brain before ceasing fire. That happened in that case with the ICE agent. 3 shots total. Now, these are experiments that were conducted sometimes under, well, they don't have any other circumstances with which to conduct these, under ideal conditions with clear, unambiguous stop cues, far less complex than any kind of a real life or real world deadly force encounter. I can tell you, because I got into one. I was shot at 4 times, returned fire once. That individual is no longer with us. Now, That's pretty much under ideal situations. Now add stress, then stir, then mix to taste. And perception, processing, and reaction times have historically been gauged under ideal circumstances about a second and a half. That was a standard training for many years. I can certainly remember that. But new understanding is that perception, processing, and reaction time is really complex. And you cannot say for a certainty that it isn't situationally dependent and that action can't be typified in canned numbers. Like, it's going to happen like this all the time. It's going to take these amounts of seconds or microseconds for this to occur. Now, it's going to be different in each and every case. And reality shows that that is true because the numbers can change and will change because of an infinite variety and number of variables. Officers and agents are pretty much going to be at a loss because they find themselves reacting to stimulus that they perceive under a massive set of different conditions. An action taken by somebody, unless you're perfect, always demands a passage of time for you to do what? Perceive the threat, as I indicated, process the threat, and react to the threat. But, as we're learning now, hey, don't let facts get in the way of a good Demorat leftist, anarchist, American media maggot narrative of murder, 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 murder. This was a murder. It was just a murder. And for those of you who may have just tuned in, by the way, did you hear that this is a murder? After having no investigation of any note whatsoever having been given, and isn't our entire justice system predicated upon innocent until proven guilty? Well, all these other people on the left are saying murder, 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 murder. He's a murderer. He's a murderer. He's a murderer. Because you always have to set the narrative first via emotions. That's what they're doing, not facts. That said, unfortunately, this becomes a classic FAFO moment. But I have to say, because this is where I begin to opine, I am so incredibly tired of leftists and anarchists assaulting officers doing their lawful jobs. The governor, the mayor, the police chief, people cursing at the lectern. If I get to play that, maybe I get to that where Fry was doing that. All they did was inflame Minneapolis and Minnesota and other lurks, leftist urban rat cages. They did nothing to defuse. There are no adults involved here, only juveniles and emos crying murder, 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 murder. So here's where I become very honest. My sympathy for the dead woman, whose name I'm not going to repeat, is akin to leftists for Ashley Babbitt. Anybody remember that? Because this is how they were thinking. Well, Charlie Kirk got assassinated. That was cool, dude. Oh, it's terrible that this woman was killed. And the other thing is, Ashley Babbitt, oh, she deserved it. Hey, why wasn't Trump killed? Charlie Kirk was killed. She was peaceful, dude. That's the deal. Here's the deal. My sympathy is pretty much none because of this. Ashley Babbitt was unarmed, and the woman yesterday was armed with a Honda Pilot. And Jesse Waters got it terribly wrong. He said, well, it was a 2,000-pound SUV. Well, bullshit. A Honda Pilot is 4,300 pounds. That's 2 tons of deadly weapon, of deadly force. So I got to make mention now of the fact that when I had trainees, and I was instructing my trainees as a field training officer, that situationally dependent, your own patrol vehicle can be as a much more efficacious application of deadly force than your puny little handgun. If you come under fire by somebody with a handgun, or even maybe sometimes a long gun, depending upon the present ability that exists, you drive the vehicle directly at the damn threat. And that's infinitely better than, and I've seen it, than deputies and officers getting out of the car to try to match handgun with handgun, or puny deadly force with puny deadly force. As I used to say, and this is how I trained, no shame here whatsoever. I used to say, look there, if you're driving, it's D for drive. Apply throttle and directly strike the offender. If mashed between the vehicle and a backing object, that's even better and more final, potentially. It's deadly force versus deadly force, and that's okay. A vehicle used as such by that woman yesterday is the very fucking definition of deadly force. So, Leftist said that Ashley Babbitt was directly responsible for placing herself in that situation. So, doing what I call BZ's logical extension, the dead woman that then was equally responsible for hers. Nothing of this would be occurring, I continue to remind everyone, if cities obeyed federal laws and turned over illegal invaders in custodial situations. This then forced federal authorities and law enforcement and agents into the streets and the businesses and the houses and the public spaces, because their job is going to get done because it's the law. So this is, Kristi Noem was correct. This is continuing terrorism. This is domestic terrorism. Because I got to tell you, I possess leftist terrorist fatigue. I am praying for the agent. I'm not praying for the woman. If that makes me a bad guy, then okay. Got it. Move on. As I've said also, with first regard to turning over a city to anarchists like New York City, sooner or later we had to have that experiment. And guess what? We are. And I'm saying that sooner or later, if things don't change, we're going to have some kind of a civil war too. Because unless and until that happens, we're not going back. You tell me how it's possible that we can shove that genie back in the bottle. Go. Tell me how. Won't occur. Can't happen. Won't happen. Do you think it's going to happen with the current Republican Party? Do you think it's going to happen with the current Demorats? In Congress, in Senate, and whoever occupies the Oval Office. So, one thing I have to say is, that's a nice shot. Under duress. Look at the photo. That, I believe, is the first shot. That's not a side shot. That's the first shot. What you see here is evenly distributed, what is called, when you examine these things, as evenly distributed radial glass crazing. Okay, so from here, standing right here in the perspective of the camera and the photographer, examine the perspective of that first round, the difference between the round location, and you can see the seat headrest back there. If the officer was standing precisely from the point of the camera on the side, the round would likely have missed the woman, and you'd have some kind of a deformation on whatever the backstop was, the back seat, glass damage on the right side, door damage, whatever. So, but then you have to go back and say, and ask, why would this lady with kids, a wife who was on the scene directly adjacent, and I'll tell you exactly why she was. I'll get into that in a moment. Why did she put herself into this situation? What's the point? Well, I can tell you why. This is the situation she got herself into. This is the situation that her wife got her into. And I can tell you why. Commie lady was laboring under the delusion that she could operate ut placuit, as they say in Latin, as she pleased, because she'd been filled and stoked with reprehensible rhetoric and hate and poisonous leftist venom and bile by what she deemed valid authority figures who resonated in her little leftist bilious brain. Consequences existed solely for everybody except she and her violent ilk, because that's what they believed. That's what their philosophy was. She assumed, wrongly, that she was inviolate, that she was untouchable. No. Wrong thinking. But from where does all of this legitimacy stem? Validating the agency that leftists say they now have and acquire to ram and assault and box in and attack and blind and injure and literally shoot at officers doing the jobs with which they've been tasked. Dallas, Texas, long gun shooting at ICE agents. 2 illegals killed. Oh, too bad. So sad. So where did they get that agency? Where did they get this wrongful thinking? Hey, here's one. The other thing to consider is this. In the not too terribly distant future, by the way, obviously, I haven't done a break. This is the end of the breaks. And I'm not going to get basically time to play a fraction of the videos that I wanted to play. And likely you've probably already seen them. In the not too terribly distant future, we're going to get what I think that I've predicted. Violence between law enforcement officers and various agencies. I hope it doesn't happen. We're on that path. We've been pushed on that path. Leftist Demorats have pushed us on that path. It's a path that they have said that they want and they desire and they demand. You know, at one point, maybe around 2014, I would have said, nah, there's no way this is going to happen. I would have thought that completely, entirely impossible. Cops and agencies are now corrupted by way of their regional, their regions, their regionalities. If they work for lurks, leftist urban rat cages. Leftist chiefs are appointed in leftist areas supporting leftists. It's that simple. Do not count, mark my words, do not count on the probity of cops in leftist urban rat cages. If you haven't learned that by now, listen to BZ. So part of that was Minnesota Governor Tampon Tim Retard Waltz stating that they're apparently at war with the federal government, and he is preparing the National Guard, or said he was. The other aspect to consider in some kind of a worst-case scenario, not stating, just prognosticating potentially, where somehow the state of Minnesota manages to wrangle its way into a potential 1995 O.J. Simpson case, where, like, jury nullification. I believe this is not going to happen. I believe the FBI has taken the case because state authority does not extend to federal law. Two completely different venues. But I also have to remind you of this with regard to that and other aligned cases from the Western Journal. Here's a headline. I think I already played this or told everybody about this maybe a week ago, last week. The headline is, activists linked to George Soros are training jurors so they can help marginalized defendants. Blah, 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 blah. We'll discuss what it really means to serve in a jury, how we can use that role to protect our people, especially with the marginalized identities who are disproportionately targeted by the criminal legal system. Blah, blah, blah. Our participation in juries is, I speak leftist, so I'll translate. And what that means is coordinated and conspiratorial jury nullification, pre-planned and pre-programmed. I don't believe it's going to occur in this case, not with this agent, not with this individual. Furthermore, like I said, the first thing I noticed in the protests in Minneapolis, like I showed you earlier, where'd the Mexican flag come from in the Minneapolis Whitey's walkathon? Where the hell did that come from? Also, I noticed that information, according to Newsmax recently, before I got onto the show, the woman whose name I'm not going to mention because she's not worth mentioning, and who attempted to murder an ICE agent yesterday, and who purposely inserted herself intentionally into ICE activities all day, and who blocked the road from ICE vehicles, was considered to be an anti-ICE warrior who was radicalized. You're going to love this part. This is so fucking stupid. She was radicalized by her son's woke private school. Since moving to Minnesota with her wife in 2025, she was involved in ICE Watch, a group dedicated to disrupting ICE raids all around Minnesota. So what the dealio was is apparently after Trump's election, she and her lovely little bint fled to Canada for a while. Okay, then she returns. She hooked up with an anti-ICE activist at her, hope you're sitting down, her 6-year-old's school. What kind of a school does a 6-year-old go to and attend so that a mother can become linked up with ICE activists? Now, in chat, Reverb Common Sense says there were Palestine flags also. Wouldn't shock me in the slightest. Okay, so she flees to Canada, comes back. She hasn't been here long. She was similar, basically, to any average tranny. She's crying for mental help and laboring under leftist delusions. She is a victim of brainwashed leftist ideology. And of course, as they said, she didn't work. She spent most of her time trying to inhibit, I should say, the operations of federal ICE agents in Minneapolis. You know, that wouldn't be white, female, leftist, gaup, guilty, overeducated white people and awful, affluent, white, female, leftist privilege, would it? So, information indicated that she was stalking ICE agents all day. She was the lead car in pursuing ICE, in locating their whereabouts, and then blocking and boxing them in when possible. Quite literally, I don't know any other way to quantify it. She was looking for a fight because this was what actually happened. This was the operative factor. Her wife, in plaid, when you look at the videos, she was pre-positioned on the sidewalk adjacent where this occurred, taking video, and used her wife as bait for the purpose of acquiring some virtue signaling video of them fighting the oppressors. That's what truly occurred. And there's a story now that just came out of Fox that said, and she admitted it. She admitted that she essentially killed her wife. That's what truly occurred yesterday. And remember, this is continuing proof that overall, Demorats, leftists, globalists, anarchists, Demorats, socialists, communists, they couldn't care less how many American bodies are stacked and packed, dripping blood, as long as it furthers their platforms and their philosophies. This female was but one continuing example of that. She wasn't a martyr. She was just a useful tool. And like a good bloody Kotex, she was tossed aside. The blood is a drip all over the feet, in the pants, in the shirts, and spattered onto the faces of the leftists and the Demorats who began all this violent crap years ago. So who wants all this violence? Who loves this violence? Sooner or later, I think what's going to happen is this, and then I'm going to start to go into some videos because I got about 17 minutes left or so, and I'm not going to go into overtime because many of you have seen a lot of this stuff anyway, but I had to make sure that I weighed in at least on Thursday night with regard to this. Sooner or later, leftists are going to come to believe a quote that is attributed to Isoroku Yamamoto in World War II, who said, I believe, he said, I fear what we have done is to awaken a sleeping giant and fill him with a terrible resolve. That sleeping giant is us. Isoroku Yamamoto is essentially all the leftists at this point. So let's start with this. This is the basic video that I found that kind of started it all. It's about 40 seconds or so. I'm going to play this, if for no other reason than to immure this in my website.
Get the fuck out of our neighborhood!
3 shots.
What the fuck? Dude, what the fuck?
Now, the fourth wasn't a shot. The fourth was the Honda Pilot striking a car down the street. So as I indicated, studies have shown that when you start something, then it takes you time to process through signals in the brain, the neurophysics. It takes a while to say, okay, I started, I'm going to stop. As I indicated. Then this is a slowed down version. You've probably seen this before, but again, I'm going to play it for those to see, about 20 seconds or so. And the audio is slowed down. Basically, what happened is they were tired of her crap. Now, look at the wheel. The wheel's going to be turning. The wheel is, where do you think this is? The wheel is straight right now. And basically what they're saying is, and she could have cooperated at this point. And I'm sure that that officer, the agent that's right there, is saying, put the car in park, stop, get out. First round. Third round. But if you start, it takes time to process to stop. I got assaulted by all sorts of leftists today who said, oh, the operations orders for ICE and everybody else say you can't shoot at vehicles, with the caveat that, yeah, you can if it's to protect yourself. Now, anybody that says that, oh, no, the agent wasn't hit, play this. And so, like I said, these videos, all the videos they possibly can find are going to be examined in extremis, in great detail, to determine what they think happened on this. I was listening to Jonathan Turley. I was listening to Bill Barr. I was listening to any number of people, not include Kurt Schlichter, who is an attorney, who has handled cases like this, who has said that in many cases, this is kind of going to be a given. Let me point this out. Gene Bernadelli sent this to me. I'm sorry if I slaughtered your name. I apologize. It's from Lexipol. This is law reference. Qualified immunity for fatal shooting involving a vehicle as a weapon. This has already occurred. Qualified immunity was provided. This is an article from October 30th, 2023, not long ago. So let me cut to the chase. The appellate court reversed the trial's denial of qualified immunity, holding that material undisputed facts demonstrate the officer fired the fatal shot, fearing for his own safety and for that of the public if that person resumed his reckless flight. So there's already precedent that has been set on a federal level. This has already occurred. This is also, as I indicated, the same ICE officer who 6 months ago was drug about 300 feet and was almost killed and received a ton of stitches. That's going to come into play as a factor.
ICE arrest in the Twin Cities is leading to even more charges.
This home security video shows a driver taking off during a traffic stop, dragging a deportation officer with him. New at 10, WCCO's Uba Ali walks us through this video and the political.
And that was the officer that was involved. I wonder, did that play a part? Was that officer thinking about that at that time? I'll wager. And then in order to make sure that he tamped down the violence, here's Mayor Jacob Fry of Minneapolis.
And I have a message for ICE. To ICE, get the fuck out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite.
Because you are flaunting federal law, and you have for years. It could have been stopped by you. The blood is all over your face. I can see it dripping down from your forehead and your hair down to your chin and your lovely white shirt.
People are being hurt. Families are being ripped apart. Long-term Minneapolis residents that have contributed so great.
People all across the United States of America voted for this. They voted for the immigration laws to be enforced. And they, leftist Demorats, were saying, you can't do this. You can't possibly remove that amount of people. Well, yes, it can be done. It is being done. And that's another reason that leftists and Demorats completely despise this. Oh, let me throw this up too, because I want to remind you of this as well. This is the same Minnesota Mayor, Jacob Fry, who in 2020, during the George Floyd riots, the peaceful riots, right? The lovely peaceful riots that this individual was saying, oh, it's fiery, but they're mostly peaceful riots, told Minneapolis PD officers of the 3rd precinct, hey, just leave, abandon the station because we don't want to provoke and prod anymore. So the officers in the cars all left, and the precinct was overrun, and it was flooded, and it was sacked, and it was burned in order to placate rioters. You get the gist. I'm not going to do anything about that because I'm certainly not going to subscribe to CBS. Good God. Oh, by the way, I want to remind you that this is the loving Tampon Tim. I've never met violence that I didn't like, or a Somali, or a Chinese guy that I didn't absolutely love with all my fraud and corruptive retarded heart. Here's Tim Waltz. And so federal ICE agents are what?
Donald Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets. They're in unmarked vans, wearing masks, being shipped off to foreign torture dungeons. No chance to mount a defense. Not even a chance to kiss a loved one goodbye.
You know what? Guess what, Tim? Change the law. If you don't like it, rally the troops and change the law. You haven't, have you?
Just grabbed up by masked agents, shoved into those vans, and disappeared.
Why would they possibly be masked? It's not because they're doxxed and they're threatened and they're swatted and their families are disturbed and their families have had to move and their kids in schools have had to move out of schools because of subsequent doxing, I should say. That's good old Tim. So did he do anything to stop it? No, of course not. He fanned the flames. So I said, well, wait a minute. What if, and PC, you're a nutter. You are a nutcase if you think law enforcement officers are going to fight law enforcement officers or National Guard versus National Guard. Really? GOP lawmakers call on Trump to arrest Waltz after governor warns of National Guard move. Representative Mary Miller calls for Insurrection Act after Waltz warns he'll deploy Minnesota troops against ICE operations. Oh, I'm making this up. This stuff can't possibly happen. Bullshit. It could. Will it? I don't know. Here's something I'm going to, let's put this up here right now. I found this on the internet because if you look around, you find things on the internet. Isn't this weird? This is going to be up in show links. And for those of you with little squinty eyes who can't read all of that as easily as you can see this, here's what this says. This is what I said. Let the death threats commence. So in case you can't read that fine print, here it is. I wrote it down so I can read it to you here. ICE in Minneapolis, Minnesota just shot an unarmed woman in the face after trying to abduct her. What? False. Lies. False. Somebody else wrote, enough. Fight back with equal force. We've tolerated and endured these people enough who are obeying laws written by the federal government. And if ICE, this is, oh, you're going to love this. If ICE Barbie is seen, Gnome, do whatever you feel is the right thing to do. We can profile too. If they want to be little soldiers playing on God mode, it's time to level the playing field. I have a lot more to say, but I'll probably get banned for saying to fight back against straight up extrajudicial executions by halfwits hired by fucking Nazis. Okay. And then says, enough is enough. The first shots have been fired. Somebody else said, we have 2A for a reason. Yeah, I'm willing to suffer the consequences of protecting the innocent from these monsters. And one more, 2 more. I can and will use lethal self-defense. Sorry, ICE pigs, you reap what you sow. And then finally, death to ICE, death to the IDF. IDF, how the fuck did they get in there? Fuck these motherfuckers. So let me ask you people who are saying, stop fomenting this crap, BZ. Okay, you tell me how we shove this crap back, how we pull this back, how we get alleged adults and politicians to stop this crap. I don't think we can. New York City is getting precisely what it has demanded for quite some time. They got it by voting for it. Here's another thing. This was, okay, I didn't slaughter his name. Too bad. Gene Baradelli. So the ICE agent in Minneapolis has been hospitalized for injuries sustained as a result of being struck by the car this woman aimed at him. And there's a story right there from the New York Post. So that exists. And also another video is about 30 seconds or so. If you wonder, hey, what was that chick doing? The woman in Honda Pilot?
They clearly wanted her out of there because she was the main car leading the protest, is my understanding. I talked to another guy who was driving behind her, but she was very successful in blocking traffic. She was doing what she was set out to do, and so they wanted to get her the hell out of there.
Can't imagine why.
Yeah.
So it looked like she was impeding ICE vehicles.
Definitely, yeah, okay. That was her goal. They clearly want.
That was her goal. Well, at this point, I don't think we're having any doubts about that whatsoever. Oh my God, I'm actually going to finish on time. So, like I said, this is what really happened. And then I'm going to wrap up with the wife of the driver of the Honda Pilot. This is what really happened. So the wife of that chick, the 37-year-old Minneapolis woman who tried to run over an ICE officer, the wife was outside the vehicle filming as her wife, the driver, blocked ICE vehicles. As I said before, she's wearing a flannel shirt, walking around the vehicle and recording ICE officers. She runs back to the vehicle to check on, that's my wife. Why was she outside the vehicle? Why was she outside on the street filming while her ICE was blocking, while her wife, I should say, was blocking ICE vehicles? For a virtue signaling video. This chick who was shot was a useful tool for leftists. And final story of the night. Renee Good's wife claimed Minneapolis shooting was my fault in video amid anti-ICE fury. Rebecca Good was captured on video at the scene after her wife was shot in Minneapolis. I think and I hope that I've attempted to explain satisfactory for everybody tonight. Sorry I wasn't here Tuesday night. All sorts of crazy crap occurred Tuesday night. No internet. Tech crap and electrical crap occurred today. Thanks to everybody for being here. Sayonara. And I'll be back next Thursday. Thursday? So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show right here live and direct on the SHR Media Network on Rumble, the SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, the grandiose KLRN, and a bunch of other bulbous podcast locations. And as I've said any number of times, promotional considerations by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, also by Shure and Electro Voice microphones, Arrakis boards, and Pratt & Whitney engines, the likes of which they be producing thrust. You can trust. And also tiaras are by My Little Pony. No guests tonight, but I do want to say thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I shall be consorting in less than 10 minutes. You can take that crap to the bank, in this bank and another bottle bank that I've got in the freezer, damn it. Thanks to everybody for subscribing, listening, watching, live, chatting, and in podcast. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you next Tuesday night. Everybody, God bless. Take care. Be safe.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep. Good night, everybody. Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.